NFL Week 14 is here. We got 5 weeks of the regular season left, some very important games. Let's get into these predictions. Thursday Night Football is going to be a banger as the Dallas Cowboys travel to Detroit to take on the Lions. I do have the Dallas Cowboys coming out victorious in this game, continuing their hot streak, picking up the 27-21 victory over the Detroit Lions. This is just kind of momentum pick, right? Dallas has obviously been a much hotter team as of late. They've won back-to-back games against Kansas City and Philadelphia. The offense is rolling right now. Pickens and CeeDee Lamb has been an absurdly good wide receiver duo this year. You got guys like Ferguson, Javonte Williams making plays. Dak's probably going to get some MVP votes. And ever since they traded for Quinnen Williams and got Overshown back, and now Trayvon Diggs, not back this week, but coming back, I do think that this Cowboys team is building up some momentum. Whereas for the Lions, they've kind of felt like they've lost their touch that they had in the previous couple seasons. Dan Campbell has had to take over play calling duties. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we're not sure about his availability for this game, but even if he goes, we know he's not 100%. Sam Laporta is not playing anymore this season. Frank Ragnow, who we thought was going to be back with the team, is no longer back with the team. All the momentum is on the side of Dallas. They're just playing much better football at this point in time. And I do think that if Detroit loses this game, or hell, even Dallas, the loser of this game in an NFC that has so many good teams in it this year is probably going to miss the playoffs. So give me Dallas to go into Detroit and walk out with a W, 27-21. Up next, we got the 9-3 Seahawks traveling to Atlanta to take on the 4-8 Falcons, man. Give me the Seahawks to win this game pretty comfortably, 24-10. Sam Darnold didn't have a great game last week versus Minnesota. I'm sure his counting numbers will look a little bit better. JSN, for those fantasy managers out there, should have a much better week. Ken Walker, kind of a late addition to their injury report, so maybe we see some more Charbonnet in this game. Either way, we know that the Seahawks have a two-dimensional offense, but at the end of the day, the big thing for me is I just don't believe Atlanta with Kirk Cousins at the helm is going to be able to push the ball against the Seattle Seahawks defense. We've seen them struggle ever since Kirk took over, and while I do like Bijan Robinson, I do think that this Seahawks defense with Leonard Williams and Murphy and DeMarcus Lawrence and the linebacking group that they have with Ernest Jones with that pick six last week, I think that they have the guys to not shut down, but slow down this Falcons run game and really make Kirk Cousins have to throw the ball. And we saw this Seahawks defense, man, ball hawking unit last week with 4 total interceptions off Max Brosmer. Drake London, will he, won't he play? Again, similar to what I talked about with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Even if we see him out there, I'm sure he's not fully back to 100%. Still going to be some rust to shake off there. So I just don't envision a world where the Falcons are moving the ball particularly well against the Seahawks units. Give me Seattle to go into Atlanta, walk out with a comfortable 2-touchdown win. Banger of a game, man. Joe Burrow versus Josh Allen. The Cincinnati Bengals travel to Buffalo to take on the Bills, and I have the Bills emerging victorious 31-27, man, in a battle of these QBs. The Bengals are the more rested team, which is, a slight advantage to them. T. Higgins potentially could be back for this game, but they'll have Jamar Chase, they'll have Joe Burrow, they'll have Chase Brown, they'll have their offensive plethora of weapons. Mike Gesicki should be back and full in action for them. Their defense actually stepped up and looked pretty decent last week, although they did benefit from forcing multiple turnovers against Baltimore, multiple turnovers as well near the end zone. So I do expect Josh Allen and this Bills offense to be able to put up points and be able to run the ball with James Cook. Dalton Kincaid could be back in this game, and Cincinnati's had a really tough time guarding tight ends this year. Kincaid is certainly a playmaker, and they have Dawson Knox, Keon Coleman, Brandon Cooks, Khalil Shakur. I'm going to give the edge to Josh Allen in this game. One, I think there's just a little bit more desperation for the Bills that they need this win as they're still chasing New England. Buffalo has been fantastic at home this year. They are 5-1 in Buffalo, so that's as well something to note. And at the end of the day, when it comes time to a defense to make a play, despite their good performance last week, I still trust Buffalo, McDermott in that Bills pass rush just a little bit more. You still have Benford, Harrison banged up now. They picked up Darius Slay off the waivers, and he's seen Cincinnati twice already this year, so at least he could offer some insight. I'm not sure how much he's going to play, but give me the Buffalo Bills, man, to walk out of this one with a victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. probably ending the Bengals playoff hopes in this game. The Tennessee Titans travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns here, man. A battle of two not good teams, two teams that'll be battling for a top 5 pick in the draft. Give me the Browns to win 17-10. At the end of the day, I just trust Shador, Judkins, Fannin, Judy, Bond, and this Browns team to just make one additional extra play than I do Cam Ward to play hero ball with this Titans offense. As well, when you factor in how good the defenses are, Cleveland is obviously one of the better defensive units in football. Myles Garrett pushing for that sack record. You know, we'll see where he gets up to. We know he wants to get to 25 this season. I think he's on pace for like 27. It's still, even after only having 1 sack last week, after multiple weeks of multiple sacks. You know, I don't know how often they take the ball away, but we know that Tennessee already has a hard time sustaining offensive drives. So give me Cleveland to win this game. And, you know, I'll be interested to see, does Shador continue to get better? I felt like he got better from week 1 to week 2. Now let's see if he gets better from week 2 to week 3. The Washington Commanders travel to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, man. And I'm going to have Washington pick up a sneaky victory here, 14-13. I do think Minnesota's defense is absolutely legit. They seem to stifle Darnold a little bit last week. So that obviously has me asking some questions about the level of what they're going to be able to do to a Commanders team. But the Commanders offense against Denver's defense was able to put up 26 points. Mariota looked pretty solid. Terry McLaurin back out there looked healthy for the first time all season, and it really helped out that offense. Debo, Zach Ertz, those guys were all eating. And at the end of the day, as weird as it is to say, and as much as I didn't think I'd be saying it going into week 14, I trust Marcus Mariota more than any quarterback in the Vikings room. I do think it's going to be J.J. McCarthy starting, and against a really banged up Commanders defense. You know, if there's going to be a week where Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison get going, you think this would maybe be the week. But since a couple weeks ago when Dan Quinn took over that defensive play calling, the Commanders defense has actually stepped it up. So in kind of a boring 1-point game, I do have the Commanders walking out with a 14-13 victory in Minnesota. The 5-7 Dolphins pull up to MetLife to take on the 3-9 Jets, and I kind of have the Dolphins hot streak continue to keep on rolling. A 20-16 victory, so nothing too crazy in this one. But at the end of the day, again, quarterback situation, I trust Tua more than I do Tyrod Taylor. Devon Achane is absolutely the best playmaker in this football game, and I would argue Jalen Waddle is second, although Breece Hall is absolutely one of those guys. At the end of the day, what the Dolphins have been doing has been rolling. Yes, some of it has been against some subpar competition, but that's kind of what the Jets are, man. The Jets are subpar competition at this point in time in the season. I don't see them sustaining a real pass rush that's going to disrupt things for Tua. I actually think the Saints defense is going to put up a better battle against the Dolphins offense than the Jets defense does. I do think Tua will look comfortable in this game. Mike McDaniel's offense will execute, but you got a cold weather game in December, Tua on the road. You got to factor that in and take away a touchdown or so. So give me the Dolphins to win this game 20-16. The Jets have a shot at the end, but I'm still going to rock with the Dolphins here. The New Orleans Saints at 2-10 travel to Tampa Bay to take on the 7-5 Buccaneers. I have the Buccaneers kind of getting a much deserved, much needed, I should say, 2-score victory over the New Orleans Saints, 27-13. New Orleans, Tyler Shuck had a decent second half, but he had a pretty bad first half. I just can't trust him to consistently make plays for this team without Alvin Kamara out there too. The run game looked a little subpar last week, although guys like Vele were making plays for New Orleans and the defense isn't half bad. But for Tampa, man, Baker got to get back on track. Mike Evans might be playing in this game. Emeka Egbuka, Chris Godwin, Tez Johnson, those guys are all good to go. Bucky Irving was on a limited snap count last week, but again, in that limited role, he absolutely looked dominant. He was looking like Bucky Irving, like, a guy who has been out since week 4, ready to go, and I expect Bucky Irving to be fully unleashed in this game, and Tampa to start reminding people what their potential could really be with a dominant victory over New Orleans. A big-time AFC South game, man. The 8-4 Colts take on the 8-4 Jaguars, and I have the Jags pulling off the 24-23 victory in this game. Oddly enough, man, the Colts haven't won in Jacksonville since the 2014 NFL season, so it's 10 straight wins in Jacksonville for the Jags over the Colts. I do have that streak continuing here in this game. The Colts offense has really started to sputter over the last month. If it wasn't for a once in a season performance from Jonathan Taylor against the Atlanta Falcons, they could very well be 0-4 in their last 4. Instead, they're 1-3. But we've seen against defenses that can sustain a pass rush, this Colts team has struggled. Daniel Jones' mobility a little bit limited with that fibula injury. You got guys like Josh Hines Allen ready to go for Jacksonville. They do have a legit pass rush and they can force turnovers. And we've seen Daniel Jones, in the face of pressure, turn the ball over from time to time. Now, I do wonder if Jonathan Taylor could get loose because the Jags do have a decent defense, a decent run defense, even with some solid tacklers. But JT's obviously eligible to get loose and get freaky against any defense. But I'm gonna rock with the Jags here, man. I think that they've been playing some decent ball as of late. And again, that win streak really is saying something to me. The Colts, shaky play. The Jags have been kind of sticking to their identity, running the ball with Etienne and Tootin, not trying to make it too complex for Trevor Lawrence. Brian Thomas Jr., another week back healthy. So I'm going to rock with the Jags here in this spot to keep their AFC South divisional lead over Indy. A classic 1 o'clock game. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be taking on the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. Both of these teams are 6-6. So this is one of 2 games that these 2 teams play down the stretch. This one in Baltimore, I'm going to take the Ravens to win this game 23-14. The -6 line in this game feels a little sneaky to me. It feels like they're begging you to bet Pittsburgh. So I'm going to bet Baltimore to cover the line in this game. And this isn't even so much a confidence play in Baltimore as much as it is a worrisome play in Pittsburgh. I just don't see where their offense comes from against a Ravens defense that's been playing really good ball over the last month. Aaron Rodgers isn't on the same page with his receivers. DK Metcalf, not a true one. Stop me if you've heard me saying this before. They got the 3 tight ends. They got Warren, they got Gainwell, but my faith in those guys is certainly dwindling for the Ravens and for the Steelers, man. Both of these teams, this is a really big spot because the winner of this game, their odds to win the division and be a playoff team go up dramatically. And while I do think that Baltimore's offense has been struggling as of late, as of the last month, because I think Lamar's going through an injury. 5 turnovers last week, multiple fumbles. Not that it's fluky, but it's not something that you see teams typically repeat week after week. If Baltimore scores on 2 of those touchdowns and puts up 20 plus points, do they, 1, win the game, but 2, how much differently are we looking at them in this spot? Pittsburgh's defense, despite being the highest paid defense in football, just hasn't quite lived up to their moniker this year. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers stock is really trending down. Whereas I feel Baltimore, they were just on a 5-game win streak before the loss to Cincinnati, extra rest. They know how important this game is. Lamar Jackson, as we get later in the season, I expect him to run the ball a little bit more. Derrick Henry, we have seen teams be able to run on Pittsburgh, so I expect a good dose of Derrick Henry. Mark Andrews just got that nice extension, so give me the Ravens to pick up the win in this spot in a really, gritty divisional game, 23-14 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. The 10-2 Denver Broncos, man, they traveled to Vegas to take on the Raiders, and these 2 teams played a couple weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. It was a close 10-7 victory for Denver. This one I got Denver going to Las Vegas and winning 24-13. Not a short week anymore for either of these 2 teams. The conditions are obviously going to be really solid inside that dome in Vegas. Beautiful stadium, by the way. Took a tour there this past spring. Just a really nice place overall. But Denver, again, Denver is playing some really good ball right now. If they win this game, they could get to 11-2, be on a 10-game win streak, be the 1 seed in the AFC. The Raiders, it feels like their season's basically over. The offense didn't look any better last week after moving on from Chip Kelly. I don't know what their plan's going to be this offseason. I mean, I like what I see out of Brock Bowers. Obviously, Genty's gotten better as the year's gone on, but you paid and extended Geno, so I don't know what you're going to do there. And for Denver, you'd hope that this is another opportunity for them to make a statement. It felt like the game with Washington could be a statement game, but then that goes to overtime. So you'd like to see Denver, especially if you're a Broncos fan, beat up on some of this lesser competition the same way that New England did with the New York Giants on Monday Night Football, because that's the team you're competing with for the 1 seed in the AFC. So give me the Broncos to win this by 2+ scores and kind of put their foot down and say, hey, we're real contenders here. We're here to play. Massive 425 game. The 9-3 number 1 seed in the NFC Bears travel to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. Packers are favored by 6.5 in this game. I don't have them quite covering that. I have the Packers winning 23-17. I do think it's a little bit lower scoring of a game because I think both teams want to run the football. I think that the Packers want to put the ball in Josh Jacobs' hand and let him run against this Bears defense. I know Philly didn't have a ton of success against it, but the Bears run defense was a bottom 5 ranked unit going into last week versus Philly. It's not something that the Eagles and their poor offensive coordinator and poor game planning were able to take advantage of, but I do anticipate that it's something that Matt LaFleur and this Packers team are able to take care of. Again, the Packers coming off of a longer rest week just by one day compared to the Bears, but Jordan Love looked really, really solid in their last game. The Bears defense has benefited a lot this season from forcing turnovers. They have the best turnover differential in football. And again, then you get to the flip side. I think the Bears can run the ball decent to great on any defense in football. And now the Packers defense is one of the tougher ones to go up against because those linebackers, Cooper and Walker, they are tackling machines. You got Micah, obviously, you got Rashawn Gary, so they're going to make life tough on you, but I don't see the Bears moving away from their identity, meaning I think both of these teams run the ball, run the clock a little bit. Every Bears game has virtually been a one-score game, so I'm not going to predict this to be any different, but in Lambeau, with home field, with what I believe is a better defense, I'm going to give the nod and the edge to the Packers in this game to pick up a 23-17 victory. The Los Angeles Rams, man, they travel to Arizona after coming off that loss to Carolina, and I have them bouncing back with a 34-16 victory. Pretty short and simple. I still think that the Rams are one of the best teams, if not the best team in football, despite the loss last week. Stafford, I mean, a weird 3-turnover game. Do we not expect him to bounce back from that? I certainly do. Multiple scores, 30-plus points. Puka, Adams, Kyron, Corum, they all probably find the end zone one way or another in this contest. The Rams defense has been one of the best in football. They pressure the quarterback. They force takeaways. They don't allow you to run or pass on them. And again, even though the Cardinals have been much better with Jacoby Brissett, we don't know if Marv's going to play. It doesn't look like Trey Benson's going to play. So just a limited Cardinals team. I don't think that they quite put up the fight in this game that they have been in previous weeks. So give me the Rams to get a pretty dominating victory. I've been waiting all day for Sunday night football, man. The 7-5 Houston Texans travel to take on the 6-6 Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chiefs, man, their season potentially on the line. I have them losing. I have the Houston Texans going into Kansas City and winning 20-16, man. Some things in Kansas City's favor. Vegas has them favored by 3.5. They are 5-1 at home this year. And of course that they have Mahomes, Reed, Spags, and those guys and back against the wall. You can't count out Kansas City. But the reasons that I'm going with Houston to win this game, for starters, Houston's defense, it's probably the most confident I could be in any unit in football. It is certainly the best defense in the NFL right now that are allowing under 18 points per game. I think they're somewhere in the 17 mark. They might honestly be lower than that. This team is just absolutely balling on the defensive side of the ball. Stingley's having another all-pro season, but the big thing for this team that I think is going to lead them to victory in this game is their pass rush, man. For starters, Will Anderson Jr., Daniil Hunter, that might be the best edge rusher combo in the entire NFL, but you factor in the fact that the Chiefs are dealing with injuries, not just at left tackle with Josh Simmons headed to the IR, but at right tackle as well with Jawan Taylor. You know, they're going to be able to bring in Jalen Moore, but you might have 2 backup tackles up against Waj and Daniil Hunter. The Texans coming for revenge from that previous playoff game. And again, the Texans have the toughest strength of schedule thus far out of any team in the AFC that's still competing for a playoff spot. So their 7-5 record, again, remember, they started 0-3, so they're 7-2 in their last 9 games. They were 3-0 with a backup quarterback. They have an identity, and the offense has become two-dimensional. They can run the ball decently well with Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. CJ Stroud came back last week off of a concussion that had him out for 3+ weeks. So obviously some rust was there. This is a big-time game with a big-time feel. And I do believe that Kansas City, we are moving in a direction where, the Mahomes era might be going through a change, and the Chiefs are just not able to win close games this year. And I anticipate this being a close game, and where in years past you give the coin flip game to Kansas City, in this spot I can't give it to them. I'm going to say Houston's defense and pass rush stop a late Kansas City drive that they need a touchdown to win the game, and Houston goes into Kansas City, stuns Arrowhead, stuns Chiefs fans, and virtually ends their season winning 20-16. And then Monday Night Football, man, a battle of two 8-4 teams as the Philadelphia Eagles, who have lost 2 in a row, travel to LA to take on the Chargers. Philly is favored by 3 points in this game. I have them winning 21-17. Now, I do believe Justin Herbert is going to play in this football game. I think it's ultimately going to be a very close game. The Eagles, the more rested team. I know that there are some criticisms of the Eagles defense after the game versus Chicago. I personally think that was just more, one, the Eagles offense couldn't sustain a drive whatsoever, but two, that the Bears offense is really legit and they do have a really good offensive line play and really good run schemes, things that I don't believe that the Chargers will have an advantage of over Philadelphia. That offensive line is super banged up. Obviously, Alton Slater both out for the year. Mekhi Becton's been in and out the lineup, so they're on a lot of backups on that offensive line, where I think the Eagles defensive line with Carter, Phillips, Smith, Hunt, Jordan Davis, Ajomo, like, they're still going to be able to get pressure and still be able to get home. We've seen virtually every team that the Chargers have faced be able to get pressure. I don't think it'll be any different with this situation. And Philly, a team that we know they pride themselves on their defensive line, and their defense is a legit unit this year. I have my question marks about how much Philly will be able to move the ball against the Los Angeles Chargers, but I think in a dome, in this environment, they should be able to run the ball a little bit better than they have been in the past. And Philly is usually due for one good half of football game. We saw them score 21 against Dallas all in the first quarter. So, again, while the sky is falling, and while as an Eagles fan, I don't think that this team's going to the Super Bowl, I do think that they'll still be able to score 20 plus points in this game. It's a close game, and you could flip this score the other way and say the Chargers win 21-17, and I think that it would be certainly possible and not something that I would rule out. But Justin Herbert dealing with that hand injury, going to be dealing with a lot of pressure. Omarion Hampton just coming back off of injured reserve. The run game with Kamani Vidal, he's had a couple big games, but I think they've come against some subpar defenses, not to the caliber of Philly. So I don't know if I necessarily trust the Chargers offense to be two-dimensional in this game. And if you're one dimension as a quarterback running for his life that's dealing with a fracture in his left hand, I'm going to pick the other team and just have some faith in the Eagles to pick up the victory in this spot. But we'll certainly see there 21-17. Philly, again, these are just my week 14 predictions, man. So as always, be sure to let me know yours in the comment section down below. What do you think I got right? What do you think I got wrong? We'll be back up here tonight after the Cowboys and Lions game to give an instant reaction and breakdown to that football game. If you love the NFL and you're not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, make sure you hit that button. I'll catch you next time. Peace.